So this week, and it was as discovered by the Australian outlet Stevivor, and I got something to say about that. Hopefully, not too controversial. But yeah, they discovered that there were unskippable ads inserted into NBA 2K21. Now, this has actually happened a few times, even recently. We had this with EA's game UFC 4, and essentially, they tested Survivor tested on PC, Xbox, PS4, and it's basically nothing to do with the load time. So you could always make the argument, hey, the game's loading, they're showing you an ad. That's like the NBA watching it on TV. What's the difference? But yeah, they were able to work out that no, this is actually, just forcing you to watch this ad, and there's no seemingly way to skip it. Now, 2K have actually come out to say, hey, this was a mistake. And I'm just doing some air quotes here. This is a mistake. And they're going to roll it back. So there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to get into this, but does this surprise you, Swinny?
What a load of shit that statement from 2K is.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
It is the biggest load of crap. Like, that pisses me off way more than anything about these unskippable ads. It's just the absolute bold-faced lie about this. Nothing about this would have been a mistake. Like that stuff doesn't get into a game.
It's impossible to have a mistake like this.
Exactly, it does not get into a game that level, and it kind of also pisses me off that they've used "Galvanized" by the Chemical Brothers in that ad for Oculus Quest 2 because I really like that song.
Oh,
but
okay.
That statement just honestly, like, I don't buy games from 2K anyway. That makes me never want to buy a game from that publisher ever.
So,
like,
and this is what I wanted to get into, right? Like, this is becoming a huge thing in gaming where, they launched a game, and Crash Team Racing is probably the biggest example of this that I can think of, where they launched the game, they actually came out and pretty much said the game is as is, and the game didn't have microtransactions. It wasn't even like really necessarily geared for microtransactions the way it was built. And it got really rave reviews. And then 1 month after, they added microtransactions into Crash Team Racing, and it became like a core part of the game. And people were filthy about this, and rightly so, I think. But ultimately, and why I want to raise this is a couple of reasons. One is, I just feel like, personally what I do, and, maybe people feel like they can't do this, but I just don't buy these games. Like, I don't trust them. Man. And like, any sports game, unfortunately, I just don't buy them. As much as I would actually be the kind of person that would buy them, I don't. Because the FIFAs of the world, all that stuff, it's so overloaded in microtransactions that just takes so much away from the game.
Man, I wish we had Mikey to kind of, blast them about bloody loot boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I challenge people to go back and play some of the games like that were released on like Xbox and PlayStation 2 when they didn't really have the infrastructure to do all these microtransactions. You go play those games, like, you earn the extra characters, you earn the, the outfits and the jerseys and the shoes and all this other kind of stuff. Like, and you go back and play those games and you enjoy them more, like it. And for me, like, I don't think there's much you can do about it, because people who are now like review bombing these games, it kind of doesn't matter. Like, they've already sold 80% of the inventory that they're going to sell anyway, because they do this kind of stuff after the fact. So you've kind of already missed the window. Yeah. So look, like, this is just going to keep happening in gaming. They're just going to keep pushing the envelope. And it's going to be even funnier when it comes to the PS5 and Series X, because it's going to have like super zippy load times. And then it's going to be like, well, wait a second. How does this make sense? How's it so slow?
Like, why? Look, I don't work in PR, right? I don't like having anything to do with PR, even though I'm kind of, in an associated field. I just making such that statement. I mean, it's not that you have to own up to it, but just say that there was something that that we've introduced to make, even saying something like to make it more like closer to the presentation in the sports show, because we know sports is full of ads, right? You could
Yeah.
get away with a carefully worded thing like that, and people aren't going to call you out for lying. People aren't going to like it, and it doesn't change the fact that you've added something post-launch, but at least you haven't just lied about it. You haven't just bold-faced lied about it. Man, like...
But the thing is that there's the mega fans in these franchises like FIFA and I know NBA 2K, they have mega fans, right? And they need to lie like this in these kind of disclosures, because those mega fans go, no, they didn't mean to do it. You saw what they said. They didn't mean, it wasn't meant to be like that. And it's just BS. Of course it's BS.
Those people are morons, man.
maybe. And the other reason why I wanted to raise this was because the story was broke by an Australian outlet. So Stevivor.com, which is an Australian video game website. And I've got to say this really carefully. So the guy who runs that, Steve Wright, he went crazy because there's a bigger Twitter player, I think it was like Okami 13, something like that, or Omni 13 maybe, who quote unquote broke the story. But what the person actually did was they took Stevivor's story and video and they edited their video, cutting out the intro that said Stevivor. So they've like manipulated it and then published it and going, look what 2K's done. This is total BS, right? So, they've basically stolen the story, yeah?
Yeah.
Because they haven't credited Stevivor at all. And they've said this. And then all the websites like Eurogamer, IGN and everything started to quote the Omni 13 person who is bigger, like got more followers and everything like that, right? And this Steve Wright guy went crazy. Like you could follow the Twitter threads. He was like blasting this guy like insanely. This guy stole my story. Right? Anyway, the only reason why I kind of brought that up is because the thing is, back in the day when there's another Australian outlet, Press Start, they broke a story that Xbox or Microsoft have confirmed that they are not producing any more Xbox One X's. So they were the first ones in the world to confirm that with Microsoft, right?
Like I say,
so
back in the day, that was like within the last 12 months.
Yeah, I think it was like 5 months ago.
Yeah, say back in the day, it's like 10 years ago or something.
I'm just trying to be a bit lenient to Stevivor. So, they did this. And then, outlets like, most of the outlets said, hey, look, Press Start, have broken the story. Stevivor did not mention Press Start at all when they run that story. Like they spoke about it almost as if they found it out themselves. And I remember I was like so dirty about that because I'm like, dude, like this is an Australian, like we're a tiny little country. If you break a story, it's like, okay, give the credit. If we broke a story, right, I'm not going to go nuts about it, but if we found the story and then, I get it that, international players might just steal it, right? But if you're also an Australian and you're not like crediting people, I just think that's like really filthy, man.
The thing with this story, though, it's not like everyone would have realized very quickly that it's playing the game.
Yes.
So it's not like some
investigative journalism
scoop or anything. Like everyone would be like, "What is going on?"
I think the biggest thing was the content stealing. It was that like he'd recorded because he's actually I know where you can see it. You can actually see Stevivor, which is his Xbox handle. It's actually in the video at one point. You can see it. It's subtle, but so I think that's the part. Like if you're stealing someone's video and then kind of pushing it up and not crediting, I think that's wrong. And what we do with the podcast when we publish on YouTube, outside of trailers and things like that, I don't think you need to credit that. If someone's video, we'll put the source of where that video came from. I think that's the right thing to do. But yeah, I just thought it was funny. And supposedly like it was a tip off from a reader anyway. So it wasn't even like they found it out. It's just someone tipped them off to it. And the last thing is, it just like makes me laugh because it's Oculus Quest 2, which, we haven't put that into one of our news articles, or news items, but now like if you delete your Facebook account, it deletes all your Oculus games.
I read this. That's rough. Now I understand it deletes you like achievement stuff because that stuff is tied to accounts. But I guess technically if I delete my Xbox account, I've lost my digital library when I think about it. But the stuff installed on the machine would stay there, but I might not be able to play it. So
but what the difference is,
it might not be the same.
Microsoft and Xbox don't force you to put your real name publicly out there and your information, like your date of birth and things like that, right? And stored on a system. But that's what Facebook does. You can't put a fake name into Facebook anymore. They actually ban your account if you do that. So that's a huge difference, man. Like, there's people who are very sensitive about their privacy for like lots of good reasons. You know, and if I jump on PS4 or whatever, I can create a profile, have nothing online really about who I am, and it's all private, right? Whereas you can't do that on Facebook. So I just think that kind of stuff is BS. There's also heaps of stories now of people buying the Oculus Quest 2. Then they linked it because they're brand new buyers, so they don't already have an Oculus account. So it means you have to have a Facebook account. So they linked it to a Facebook account, and then they've been banned on Facebook for whatever reason. So then they can't use the Oculus. And they've always...
so they got banned for some other reason. Can't they just create a new account on Oculus?
No. No, you have to have a Facebook account.
No, it's in... Oh, but because then they can't create another account because they're already banned. It says,
Yeah. And then they tried to refund it, like send the Oculus back, and it's been refused. It's just, look, you know, a good mate of mine actually just bought the Quest 2 and he loves it. Like, and a lot of people say it's really good, but I don't know why. I'm going to be really like such an a-hole about this, but I just can never buy the Oculus now with the whole Facebook thing. It's just, they're just going deeper and deeper on this stuff, and I just don't like Zuckerberg, and I don't trust that guy, and yeah, I just will never buy any Oculus, man. So VR is kind of off the table for me, I think, because unless PSVR 2 is any good, we'll see how that goes.
I don't trust Androids either. So
you don't trust what? Oh, Androids, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Out of anyone in human history, he's the most Android-looking person I've ever seen.
He said there is a mad clip of him saying, like, you know, back when I was human, and he goes, "Oh, I'm still a human." Literally, you can see it. He's talking to kids, and they're like bawling, like at laughter. Like, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was along the lines of, you know, when I was a human. Oh, well, you know, I am a human still. I was just like, oh my god, that's kind of scary. All right, well, let's get into you know, something that's not about ads or forcing things down your throat.
Well, hopefully not.
Yeah, that's right. That's where the segue was.